Hello friends, it's a beautiful day here in Cindy's kitchen. Today we're going to make cream cheese frosting. It's going to go on the carrot cake that I made yesterday. And this kind of frosting is good not only on carrot, but on red velvet cakes or some kind of a spice cake, something that's got a lot of cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, this kind of thing. Maybe an applesauce cake. So anyway, let's look at the ingredients. So you're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter and an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. You're going to want to make sure they're softened to room temperature. And if you saw any of my other videos, you saw that I put them in a warm microwave and let them sit for several minutes until they're nice and soft. And they are. Then we're going to have 4 cups of sifted confectioner's sugar. It's really important to sift it because confectioner's sugar gets lumpy sitting in its container, and the lumps are a bad thing for frosting. And then we're also going to put in 2 teaspoons of milk. Teaspoons isn't much. Sometimes I put in a little more than that. And a teaspoon of vanilla, and as always, I love vanilla and I always put in more. But that's me. So let's get started. So we're going to cream the cream cheese and the butter. Now you could use the blade attachment for your mixer, but since it's really important to get all the lumps out, I'm going to use the whisk attachment. Now there's nothing worse than working with frosting that's got little lumps of cream cheese or little lumps of butter or little lumps of sugar. Though in theory, as you're beating it, the sugar should work itself out. But I always sift the confectioner's sugar when I make frosting. So let's get that started. And now I'm going to start adding powdered sugar. Drop in a little milk as I go. Don't add it all at once. You want to let the fats absorb the sugar as you go along and not overpower it with all the sugar. A little more milk. I may end up using more milk. Again, you have to see how it's coming along. You have to decide how thick you want your frosting. Going to put in a splash of vanilla now. I reserve the right to put in a little more. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to wipe down the sides a little bit, though it's pulling in the sugar really well, so I'm not too worried about that. A couple more big spoonfuls of sugar. Now kick the speed up 1 notch. Another splash of vanilla because that's the way I am. All right, I don't have a heck of a lot of powdered sugar left, so I'm going to just dump it in the side here. Come on. in you go. All right. Lift it up and start mixing it. Now it's kind of clumped up around the whisk blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off and knock out the big clump. There. Clump, clump, clump. And then I'm going to take my bowl scraper, scrape down the sides. Again, you want to make sure there's no butter and cream cheese stuck in the bottom, because it likes to in this mixer. I don't know about you. Hopefully you don't have the same problem. Put it back on. Put the attachment back on. And now let's let it go at a nice high speed for a minute. All right, that looks really good. So again, we gotta knock all the frosting out of the mixing blade because we don't want to waste any. Personally, one batch of frosting is not enough, in my opinion, to frost a cake. And I've only made one batch. You really need at least a batch and a half, and depending on how generous you are, maybe even two, which seems ridiculous, but recipes always seem to be written for 3.5 or 4 cups of powdered sugar. And I don't know, maybe I put the frosting on too thick. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Because you definitely got to have frosting between the layers. And heavens knows if you torte the cake, if you cut the layers and you need more frosting because you end up with 4 layers instead of 2, and then you're really going to need a double batch of frosting. All right. It's not every single bit of it, but it's the majority of it. So there's that. Now let's put the whisk blade down and move the mixer out of the way. Oops. And so what we have now is some lovely cream cheese frosting, a little bit all around the edge. But what I need to do now is I need to scrape it into my piping bag because I like to pipe around the edge to make it easier. So I've got my big piping bag and my big flat tip ready. If you want to use piping bags, you go to your favorite craft store and they'll have them. But if you don't want to, just use a knife, whatever you got to frost your cake with. Blop. Come on. There you go. Since I only made one batch of frosting, I'm going to try to not do it as thick as I normally would. If this was a cake that I was selling or for a special occasion, I absolutely would have made more frosting for it. So now I need an offset spatula. This is my decorating box. I have all kinds of stuff in it. I thought I had an offset spatula, but no, I dropped it on the floor. Ugh. So I've got boiling water because I always wipe off my offset spatula in boiling water. So we're going to do that right away since I dropped it on the floor. Now let's take a look at the carrot cake. Here it is from out of the freezer. Now, if you saw the carrot cake video, you remember I said, I was going to eyeball and try to have the same amount in both pans. Well, obviously, I didn't do a great job because this one is about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch taller than the other one. Oh well. If I wanted to make them perfect, I would take a little bit off the top on this taller one, but that's not the purpose of this video. I've got these are 8-inch cakes, so I've got my 10-inch cake board that I covered with this nice foil wrap. This is a Wilton product. Again, you can buy it at craft stores. It is moisture resistant and grease resistant, so it's good. You don't have the frosting making a nice stain around it. This is a 10-inch circle. You always want it a little bit bigger than the cake itself, which are 8 inches. It comes in all different sizes. I've got, 8-inch circles for a 6-inch cake, 10-inch circles, which that one is. Here's a 14-inch circle for a 12-inch cake. You can get just about any size you want. All right, so let's put this on the cake board. We'll do the taller one on the bottom. Kind of line it up so that the amount of board showing is the same. And we're going to start out by piping some frosting, squeeze it down, and I'm going to be a little chintzy to make sure that I have enough. So I'm going to smooth it out. I love these turntables because it brings all the different sides to you. All right, there's that. That was pretty easy. And now we're going to put the other cake. See, these came out of the freezer like half hour ago. So they're nice and firm. They are easy to frost because they're nice and firm. If you're making a cake to keep at home and you just want to use a plate that's in your cupboard, you really want one that doesn't have a lip. And most dinner plates have like a little lip around the rim. You really want one that's flat. So you're going to want to maybe invest in a special plate just for your cakes. But since this one is going as a gift to somebody, I put it on a cake board because I don't expect it to come back. I'm running low on frosting, which I knew I would. So I've got to be really, really cheap, because I'm not going to make another batch of cream cheese frosting. I only had one 8-ounce block of cream cheese to work with, so this is the way it is. You know, if you're familiar with the naked cake trend, which is minimal amount of frosting on the cake, maybe that's what this one will end up being. It'll have a minimal amount, which I personally like the looks of it. I did a wedding cake a year or two ago for someone who wanted a naked cake, and it was fun. All right, not much frosting left in my bag. So this is definitely going to be a very thin layer around the outer edge. So let's get ready to start spreading it. Get my offset spatula warm. I'm not going to do any decorations on this because, for one thing, I don't have any frosting left to do decorations. If I did, I would probably put a nice scalloped edge along the bottom, but can't do it. Don't have the frosting. You know, I think I might be able to, I might actually get away with covering the entire outside with a thin coat. Huh, that's exciting. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. What else can I tell you while I'm doing this? This cream cheese frosting recipe came from the same woman who gave me the carrot cake recipe, and it's also been my go-to for many years. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer than this. So here is my carrot cake, and you can see how I frost it. See some of the tools that I use. So the recipe for the frosting is in the comments as always. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll come back and watch more. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye now from Cindy's Country Kitchen, or Cindy's Bitchin' Kitchen, whatever you want to call it. Okay.